The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
The FujiCast.
Well, here we are, New Year 2021. Do you feel any different, Kev?
Fatter. And older.
And just one day older and just a... Well, actually, this year is... you mentioned that you were going to go for the health drive straight away in 2021. No booze, no carbs, no enjoyment.
January is... January is usually really odd because, it's Gemma's birthday, it's her dad's birthday, it's some of my best friends' birthdays, and normally January we have big... it's like 3 weeks of weekends of bashes.
Yeah.
But obviously we can't. So, I'm going to do it. No carbs, no booze, no poison in my body.
No.
Yeah.
Can you really do it? I mean, we did try in December, remember?
No, I can do it. I can definitely. Well, the carbs might be a bit difficult sometimes, but the alcohol I can do.
Yeah.
And luckily, the gym is still allowed to stay open, although I'm no longer allowed to do socially distanced judo.
For the time being, your gym's open. Stand by, Kev.
For the time being, yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
But that's good that your gym is open. Here in the land of everything's closed down, there's nothing apart from Tesco open, it seems. So, yeah. And I suppose you could have your workout in Tesco, pushing around a big heavy trolley. And that's about it, really.
Yeah.
And exercise. We're allowed to do exercise, but
we can go to the tip.
And go to the tip. There we go. That's the exciting, creative lives we can all lead. Well, last week we said that we'd be talking about inspirations this week, and we're going to do that. We've picked out a book each, a photographer each. We were going to talk about YouTube, but for the fear that you're going to talk about chess for half an hour, Kev, did we dump that one?
Well, I am happy to talk about chess for half hour if you so wish.
How on earth did you spend 7 hours the other day just watching back-to-back chess matches?
Oh, I did 7 hours on one day, and then I did 5 hours a day before. Wow, Brilliant. Dear. Love it.
What are the family saying? Dad?
They'd gone on a dog walk.
I'm not surprised.
Gemma fooled me into. She said, "Come on, we'll just go to the normal walk we do, which is usually about an hour." Yeah. And then when we normally turn right down the field, she carried on.
What?
And I was like, "Where are you going?" And we ended up going to Lee, which is about 100 miles away. and the walk to this was on Boxing Day when we had the floods. And everywhere was flooded, so I was up to my knees in water, carrying, quivering puppies and dogs through puddles and stuff.
Oh, you can't let Git walk through puddles. It's not his.
He was all right, actually. It's the whippet. The whippet just kind of stands there, looks at the water, and then just quivers.
Shakes, yeah. Oh.
So that was enough for me in the terms of those walks, because I wasn't prepared. You see, I didn't have the right shoes on. I wasn't mentally prepared for a 4-hour walk. And so the next day they went by themselves. I stayed home and watched chess.
Well, you need your lower boots, don't you? Your lower walking boots.
Correct.
That's what you need.
I didn't have them on. Otherwise, it would have been okay.
Yeah. So that's it. Chess instead. That sounds a lot warmer.
Yeah, it's great. Love it.
Right. Okay, inspirations then. Let's start with we was just doing it. It's a quick fire, like one of your chess matches that you were watching. What did you call it? Armageddon or something?
Armageddon is the end game. Yeah, when they keep drawing, they go to Armageddon, which sounds very brutal.
Doesn't sound very chess-like. Not the Russians, sure. Well, maybe the Russians do.
Honestly, it is phenomenal because they're doing it all online now. So they're all at home in their houses.
Yeah.
And it's all webcammed and everything, so you can see their faces, and and let's be honest, they're not they're not they're not supermodel looking.
I don't know that.
Magnus Carlsen is pretty good looking, I suppose.
Well, I was going to say, hang on a minute. What about the actor in Queen's Gambit? I thought she was pretty good looking as a chess player.
She's not in the real world.
I like to believe she is.
But the best thing is when there's one guy lost, and he literally punched his laptop.
No.
And you could see his arm go back, and he threw this punch at his laptop, and the webcam came flying off the laptop, and all of this, the screen was just this spinning mess as it went flying into his living room somewhere.
But I never thought that chess players get like that. It all seems to be a very gentlemanly game where at the end you shake hands and best player won and that kind of thing. Do they get that passionate? Well,
there's big money involved. I mean, that was a 60 grand game, €60,000 game. Oh. and it's all done in 5 minutes. It's quite important to them.
Dopamine must be.
There was
going
another
through
part where Magnus Carlsen was playing, and he's the world champion. He lost as well, but they're not allowed to, because they're at home. They have to have other webcams and stuff to make sure they haven't got anybody helping them, or they're not using computers and all that. Not that they would, but he's in a hotel, holed up in a hotel somewhere, and at one point the cleaner walked in. And he was waving at, get out, you're not allowed to be in here, get out.
Was he? Maybe she was a chess playing cleaner. Maybe she wasn't a cleaner at all.
Maybe. Well, anyway, she weren't very good because he lost.
Oh, I didn't realise it got that passionate. Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
I understand it a bit more. Yeah. So we've got half an hour today. It's like our speed chess podcast for a couple of weeks over Christmas and New Year, because we still wanted to be here to do something, and then we come back online properly for the first show of the year next week. We should be like the schools over here in the UK, Kev, just keep indefinitely holding it off. We'll be back in Feb. Yeah,
I'm not going to come. I'm not going to go on the next podcast. I'm just not going to do it. Boris said no.
Boris said no. So that starts properly next week again. But for this week, then, so inspirations, a book, a photographer, talk a little bit about YouTube, perhaps, but we will talk about inspirations for this year and what we're hoping from the year. Let's start with the book.
Well, actually, one of the things I was doing over Christmas was cataloguing all my books. I found a nice piece of software called LibLib, which I think is beautiful.
Right.
And I was doing that. But however, the book that I have got is a little bit of a story behind this, because this was going to be your Christmas gift.
Okay.
And it arrived, and then I realised it was signed. So it immediately went up in a lot of value.
Yeah.
I didn't send it to you then, yeah. So I've got and it's a new book for me. It's Don McCullin, In Africa.
Oh, I've always wanted that one, and I really, in my sleep, I've just been thinking, I wish somebody loved me enough to give me a signed copy.
Well, you nearly had it, but yeah. So I don't know. It was about 50 quid to buy. Yeah.
50 quid, Kev.
And I bought it from an online store, and then it turned up signed, and then suddenly it was worth about 450 quid.
Wow. Right.
So I understand why. Instead.
Yeah, I got the power puzzle instead. I understand that. That's okay. I was going to send you the £600 bottle of whiskey, but I thought you can have the cheap one from Tesco.
Yeah. So that's the book that I am looking at right now in terms of. I don't know whether inspiration is the right word, to be totally honest with you, because I mean they're beautiful pictures and everything, but it's definitely nothing that I would be shooting or considering shooting. I suppose tribal people in Africa and everything. But I suppose it comes down to the fact that McCullin is probably he's probably the most influential photographer perhaps still alive in the UK, I would say, in terms of his substance, his output, his style, obviously the military stuff, the conflict stuff, but then his newspaper work and his stuff for the journals, through to stuff like this, the African portraits and the storytelling, and then his landscape work. He's just one of those people that you can relate to, I think, as somebody who just loves photography and clearly doesn't do it for, obviously, clearly and hopefully has made a substantial living out of it. He's a proper talented photographer with a good body of work behind him, and I think that's aspirational, and I think that's why I get drawn to him the most, I think, out of everybody.
And you're right, there aren't, I mean, the book I've picked is another British photojournalist who's still alive, and we've talked about him many times, and I have this complete love affair with Tom Stoddart's work. Some very personal connections to some of the pictures as well, through growing up and seeing those images on the front pages of newspapers. But this latest book that he's got is called Extraordinary Women, Images of Courage, Endurance and Defiance by Tom Stoddart. The foreword actually is by Angelina Jolie.
This is his latest book.
Yeah,
isn't it?
he always has very interesting people write his forwards, it seems. I mean, Eyewitness. If you could have the forward written by Bob Geldof, that's not bad, is it? But Angelina Jolie wrote the foreword for this particular book, and it is, as it says, it's pictures of extraordinary women through history, and it's a really well-connected book. Each picture leads to the next in story formation, so it's such a cleverly curated book, all black and white, beautiful images. I would imagine all film, and this would play certainly into what you love. Yeah. I was going to send you my copy, but it's signed. So I kept hold of it. This one's worth £650. But
I was only joking about that, by the way.
But I'll remember it always. But the interesting, some of the pictures in here. He's a top photojournalist, much like McCullin, of course. But I love, there's a picture of Margaret Thatcher here in shock during a visit to Lockerbie shortly after the disaster. But the previous picture to that is the Lockerbie picture that Tom had taken, that we've spoken about before. Previous to that, they're not necessarily in date sequential order, because previous to that, there's the images that Tom took following 9/11. So, but the stories do link. So you go from Margaret Thatcher looking very shocked to an extremely shocked picture of Princess Diana, or if she wouldn't have been the princess at the time, as the photographers caught her for the first time when she was driving into the nursery where she worked. But then it goes to, of course, Princess at Peace and things like that. So it's just it's a beautifully documented, wonderfully curated book, so thoughtfully put together. Some of the images are shocking. Some of the images you won't enjoy. But I'll tell you one place, I didn't realise he'd photographed at Chernobyl, by the way. I've always been fascinated about taking a pilgrimage, if that's the correct word, to Chernobyl to make
pilgrimage
pictures.
is not the right word.
It's not really, is it?
No.
But it seems to be that people do this sort of this journey, this sort of photographic rite of passage almost to Chernobyl, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a word for it, isn't there? It's what's the word?
Disaster tourism. Disaster tourism.
Yeah, what's the word? Like based on horror tourism or something.
Right, okay. Yeah. Are you fascinated by the place, or do you think it's been overdone now?
I am kind of fascinated by it, but I do assume, it's more of it seems to be more of a playground now, doesn't it? They do the kind of make money out of going to visit it and stuff. So I suppose it's lost its charm in that respect. I must say it's not somewhere that is on my list of places I'd really want to go. I'd love to go to North Korea, though. Love to do that.
Yeah. A friend of ours, Paul Rogers, went there. And he had to be very, very cautious about what he was photographing. But even he admits to slipping his guides at times and thinking, what am I doing? If I get caught now with my cameras, with no guide, I'm truly in trouble.
Yeah, there was a famous Michael Palin episode, wasn't there, where he went to North Korea as well. And
I didn't see that one.
The guide he had with him, the rigger, if you like, she was just effusively saying how great North Korea was, but you could see him probing her eyes for the truth.
Could you? Wow.
Very interesting. Martin Parr went to North Korea as well.
I think I've seen some of the Martin Parr I'm sure I have seen some of the on the Chernobyl front. Yesterday we went for a New Year's walk, and we went to a favourite place of mine, which is huge, wide open spaces, which in Tier 4 is reasonably good for you, I think. We went to Greenham Common Air Base, which used to have the longest runway in Europe for landing these strata fortresses, I think, that carried nuclear weapons and warheads and whatever, and the silos that they have there, partly of which was the film set for Star Wars a few years back. So the silos where they used to keep the cruise missiles. But I managed to find, and I'm going to do this as my Cargay piece this coming month, I managed to find and Chernobyl just reminds me of this, find the actual place where it's reckoned that there was a nuke. Well, it's the local nuke disaster story that some people believe there seems to be evidence for, but it's very much hush-hush. The bit where where there was an explosion, and apparently it was the ground zero bit where plutonium or something, very small amounts of it, was then siphoned off up into the air and spread across parts of West Berkshire. Although
Well, that might explain why the way you look, to be honest with you.
My green hue that I have constantly. But I managed to find the place, and Jack and Thomas were fascinated by it, and I photographed it. I mean, it's nothing; it's tufts of grass, but I think it makes an interesting story when you. I suppose that would be disaster tourism, wouldn't it? But the unproved story, I might add.
Yeah, I guess, but it's not organised tourism, that is it? So that's different.
No. There was just the four of us, no sign.
I love all those places. We've got a couple of places around here, bunkers that have underground, chambers and stuff that were used for storing the Queen's artwork in the war and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
love all that.
There's a guy in Norfolk. I was desperate to go and photograph him. This was just before the first lockdown, and then it happened. I completely forgot about it. Who lives in a nuclear shelter that was out in Norfolk, really, really deep. And he's a proper eccentric guy that's built this home out of this place. They do that in America. They build and Russia actually. They build homes out of original nuclear silos that used to take the missiles. Fascinating places. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, photographer. Go on, pick me a photographer that's been inspirational to you in the last year.
Well, I'm going to go quite left field with this. I'm going to go for Frank Horvat. Frank Horvat he only died recently, actually, like a couple of months ago, I think. He was old, he was way into his kind of 80s and 90s. But he was I've heard of him and seen his stuff before, but I'd never really explored it much until recently. And he is, a very, very huge body of work. A lot of covers of magazines and stuff. He's worked with people like Don McCullin and Helmut Newton and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But what I love about his, a lot of model work and a lot of kind of editorial stuff, but also documentary work. Simple street photography that makes you kind of look at it. But I love there's two books of his that I really, really love. One of which I've got, and one of which is on its way. And the one that I really love the most, it's called Photographic Autobiography.
Right.
And essentially, what it is his life in pictures over kind of 50 or 60 years. So these pictures aren't necessarily beautiful staged or well. It's in some cases a picture of a dirty handkerchief. But I love it because it is his life in this book. Yeah. And the story behind it, and he's got another one called 1999, which would have been the last one he did, which is 365 days, a picture every day. And it's really interesting. And then when you really dig into his archive, he's had a lot of exhibitions and a lot of work. And some of the stuff is not really my kind of style or what's necessarily interesting to me. But his entire body over the time, when you look at the website he's got, or the curated area for him now is called horvatland.com. And there's some beautiful stuff of that, self-portraits for him, but then things like his friends and family in the 90s. And, it's just gorgeous. It's just beautiful, simple black and white pictures of people in his life. And, it makes me just constantly think, why are you not doing this stuff? Why do we live in a world now where every time you point a camera at somebody, they go, don't take a picture of me, don't put that on Facebook, don't put that on Instagram, oh my God, I don't look like that, I want to stick my... And then turn their lips into ducks.
Yeah, but you say this, and I don't think it's as bad as you suggest it is. Now, I'm not out there doing it all the time, but I've spoken to enough photographers this year that do it, and they do give us slightly... I know that you're...
I'm not on about strangers now, remember. I'm on about your immediate surrounding. So this is his family, his friends, his immediate friends, everything like that.
Get back off your box there, or get off your box. Into your box, or whatever the expression is.
That's what I'm referring to. And it's like for a long time I've wanted to go and do a whole basically week with my parents.
Yeah.
Obviously I haven't seen them since February, but and real kind of off the cuff documentary of them. But it just wouldn't work. I just know it wouldn't work because it would work eventually, but it would be a real struggle, a real struggle. I tried taking pictures of my dad, and he just goes bright red and his glasses steam up.
You have said that it's getting harder to photograph the children.
Yeah, the children, although they've been a lot better over Christmas, I have to say. But yeah, and this is really why I love Frank Horvat stuff. It's real, honest. There's no. Yes, the editorial stuff and the commission stuff is infinitely technically great, but the other stuff, there's real life's work, which I think, were he around today, would probably be what he would say is the most important stuff.
Yeah.
It's not. It's grainy, it's gritty, it's pictures of people shaving, it's pictures of people crying, and there's a beautiful portrait of his wife that he took in 1959, I think, and it's a beautiful picture. And yet, when you read about it, he's like, "Oh yeah, we'd had a massive argument, as we always do, and she's looking really, really angry."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's but
it's the reality.
That seems to be that I can't get myself over that line, and I struggle with that. And so this is why I'm choosing Frank Horvat as my inspiration of the year.
Well, I'm going to choose somebody I was introduced to. I'd not heard of him prior. Søren Solkær. Who's a Danish photographer, and actually he's very well known for his celebrity work with people like Björk and White Stripes, the Arctic Monkeys, REM, U2. But it was some nature wildlife photography that really drew me to him, and I didn't know what it was called when you get all these groups of birds, swallows all together, starlings all together, not swallows, starlings all together, and
murmuration.
It's called a murmuration. I didn't know that. And we've been having some murmurations around these parts. But I found out the RSPB, for example, who used to, if they got a tip-off about a murmuration, they would always pop it on their site, or various birding sites would feature, tip, we've got a murmuration going on in such and such a valley, and then hordes of people would go there. But now they're trying to stop people doing that, clearly, because of the pandemic. So the other day we went on one of our walks. We go a lot on family walks. And there was a murmuration happening. And we didn't know this till we got to an area, and there were just loads of people everywhere. And we kind of didn't really hang about because of this situation. But that was a murmuration. But Søren has taken pictures. Every single one is like it's like an art installation. His murmuration pictures. He calls them blacks. It's called Black Sun.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. They are amazing.
No, incredible, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like a ballet dance in the sky.
Yeah. Yeah, he does a behind-the-scenes piece about it, but it's just everything about the photographs he's managed to get of these murmurations, and they're just so well exposed, beautifully exposed, and the locations are perfect. He's just got it, hasn't he?
Yeah. They're nice.
Yeah,
I seen one in Richmond once, a murmuration. It was terrifying. Right above the trees we were standing underneath, about 10 billion birds flew out of
There's
it.
There's thousands, aren't there?
I thought it was bees at first.
Oh, well, that would be a bit...
Yeah, these are beautiful pictures.
They are beautiful. So Søren Solkær for me, and an unexpected name. I might have chosen somebody else because I very much follow the work of portrait photographers, and although he's a portrait photographer, it was the murmurations that drew me to his work, and I will put that link down because I think it's worth going to have a look at. YouTube, do you know, we didn't really have... We mentioned YouTuber, but I spend a lot of time watching YouTube. You've been doing a lot more YouTube this year, which is fantastic. I've sort of kept faithful to those that I really appreciate, the works of people like Sean Tucker and Jamie Windsor, who I still enjoy. I've spoken to Jamie Windsor on Photography Daily this year, and I did say to him, and I felt perhaps I'd insulted him, because it's something we've talked about before, Kev, when we say it does feel like you need to have a degree to understand him. And I put that to him, and I thought for a minute he was going to sort of audibly punch me, but I got let off with that question. But I can't... there's a tech reviewer called Gerald Undone, who I really like as well. And I've not really sort of found anybody else on YouTube this year.
I have to say, YouTube to me, I enjoy it, and I do use it and watch some stuff on there. But mostly, I'm not really watching like the celebrity YouTubers. I just don't. I've spent more time this year in Vimeo than I have in YouTube.
Have you?
Yeah, looking at all of that. So I'll just go to Vimeo and type in things like black and white personal, or something like that, and then you find some beautiful films, often ones that were, because Vimeo has been around a long time, 15 years or so now, and you'll find some that were uploaded a very, very long time ago. And there's some great stuff in there. There's one, I think I shared it in the FujiCast group the other day, called On the Buses.
Right.
And it's a guy who just took clips on a really early digital camera.
I know it, yeah.
From upstairs on the bus around London. And he put it to music and everything. It's great. It's really cool.
It was.
So yeah, I've kind of been looking more at Vimeo in terms of that. And the YouTube stuff is really important. And I love like we said at the top of the show, the chess stuff and everything. I like watching real time live things. Yeah. I watched a lot of judo as well, all of the grandmaster judo, all of the masters judos competitions, all that stuff. But I don't typically, if I need to find something out, then yes, I'll go to YouTube, or I'll go to DIY Dave, one or the other.
DIY Dave.
But
you should have a channel, DIY Dave.
DIY Days, yeah. And I don't really. I do have. A couple of months ago, I went through all of my subscriptions and unsubscribed from the ones that I just didn't look at.
Right.
Left me with about 15 or so, I think, and it's better because you get much more. It's clean feed, so you get recommended the stuff that you're more interested in. Yeah. I don't really subscribe to channels that I only like one film or something. What I'll do instead is add that to a private playlist that I have, rather than subscribe to the channel, unless it's either somebody I know I want to support, or it's something that constantly put stuff out there that I find interesting. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you on the Vimeo thing. If you can find much more artistic stuff there sometimes. It has hardly any views compared to what you're used to seeing some of the larger channels on YouTube get. But
nothing in terms of numbers, nothing.
And what about the year ahead then, Kev? In closing now, we've could sit here and say, well, I'm looking forward to getting back to weddings, blah 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 blah, but we don't know when that will be. Although Matt Hancock has said that we should be back to normal by April. How do you know that? I know, Neil. Kev's coughing so much because he can't believe it.
I know. Didn't they just replay what they said this time last year?
Maybe that was it.
Yeah, in March it was like, hopefully we'll be able to have a normal Easter.
Yeah, no, that was the president of the United States. That was President Trump that said we'd be filling up the churches by Easter. And
then in autumn it was like, yes, and we're going to do we should be able to have a normal Christmas with the people we love.
Yes.
That fucked up, didn't it?
And then the next one was we should be having a normal Kevin Mullins birthday, a celebration for Kevin Mullins. That one went awry.
That went away. Well, anyway, let's hope Matt Hancock is right, and I think reasonably, if the world isn't back on its keel come April, then it probably never will. Let's face it. I think they'll just open the doors and let us all rot.
Oh, Kev, no. This is supposed to be an inspirational program.
Oh yeah,
not read the script. Right.
So let's face it. Probably by April we'll all be back to normal and everything will be fine.
It's going to be a slow wind up into the year. I think because I didn't want to agree with you about a month or so ago that April wouldn't be, well, not normal, but we wouldn't be doing weddings. I was saying, no, of course we'll be doing weddings. And I've had a couple moved now, as you know, and I expect a few more in the next few days. Some conversations have started. So, yeah, May, June, July.
I honestly don't think, and again, we will cross swords on this, I'm sure. I really do not think that there will be many full size. And by that, I mean, 100 people.
Oh, I agree with you on that. I totally agree.
All having a nice party. I don't think that. I really personally don't think that will happen until, well, maybe not even 2021 at all. I think they're going to be very cautious about this.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's going to be 50, arbitrary figure, 50, maybe as much as 80, 70 maybe. But I agree. I can't see 100. Of course, there could be these sort of. What's it called? Lateral flow? Not lateral flow. What's it called? The test, the quick test you do. I should know what they're called because I'm
murmuration.
No, not murmuration. The 20-minute test thing, COVID test thing. I should
PCR.
know. I should know. The what? Sorry.
PCR tests.
Yeah, but the quick one, the 20-minute one.
20-minute PCR test.
Not the 15-minute one. 15-minute PCR test. Because I've just volunteered to go and I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing, but this month I will be at the local school if my name is pulled. I don't know how many volunteers there are, but we've been asked to volunteer to go overlook tests to make sure they do it properly. I don't think we administer the test. I think there has to be an adult in the room to check that it's being done properly or something.
Oh, you're like a UN observer.
Oh, yes. I've always wanted to be a UN observer.
You might get a little thing around your arm that says observer.
It says murmuration.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I agree with you. So I don't think weddings will be entirely normal this year. But
on a positive note, I am very excited for 2021, I have to say. I've got a lot of plans to do things differently, which hopefully will work. But also, more importantly, I think it will be the year when, we have the Roaring Twenties will come back, as I read once. Once this bloody thing disappears, everybody will go into Roaring Twenties mode. And
yeah, I did read that was a very interesting article, that, although it did suggest it might be a couple of years before we get the Roaring Twenties. We just have...
Yeah, he did predict 2024, but either way, I do think that, it's got to be better, can't be worse.
Well, that's true. Well, Kev, we're back to normal next week, whatever normal is. And whatever tiers we're in tier 4 right now. We could be in tier 800 by next week. Oh, because it changes day by. We went up 2 tiers in just in as many days.
I felt sorry for the Isle of Wight. They were in tier 1. They could do whatever they wanted, and then within about 6 days, they'd gone to tier 4.
I couldn't quite work that out because the Isle of Wight. I mean, they had plenty of opportunity to make themselves a proper fortress on that island.
I think it was something to do with an outbreak in the prison.
Was it?
I think so, yeah, because the Isle of Wight is one area, and they can't, if the numbers go high because everybody in the prison gets it, they can't. It goes by the numbers, doesn't it? The computer says. I
bet they were delighted with those that were serving at Her Majesty's pleasure. Thanks very much. That's a nice New Year's present. Thank you. Lock the doors.
Throw away the key.
I shouldn't say that. Anyway, that is it for our shorter episodes covering the Christmas and New Year period. We'll be back as per norm next week, and have a nice week watching chess, Kev.
Yeah, I'm going back to it now. Yeah.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Checkmate.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.